25 minutes past the hour, and President Trump says the war in Iran is over, but Iran's foreign ministry says not so fast.
We ended the war with Iran today, and they have agreed never to have a nuclear weapon, something that we insisted on.
We have not reached a final conclusion on this matter. This is a very important issue that is being reviewed by the relevant decision-making bodies. In the past few days, they again tried to impose a series of unreasonable demands and requests. The Islamic Republic of Iran has certainly shown, both in diplomacy and on the battlefield, that it will in no way surrender to the illegitimate conditions and demands of the other side.
So for more on this, let me bring in Blaise Misztal, Vice President for Policy at the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Blaise, welcome back to the show. So you just heard the sound bites there, the back and forth. Iran sounds pretty defiant. Why would they suddenly give up their nuclear ambitions now?
Well, good morning, Marky. It's good to be with you. Look, I think at this point, both sides are telling their domestic audiences what they want to hear. President Trump is trying to reassure the United States, Americans, and particularly markets that the war is over, there's not going to be any more fighting, and that the Strait of Hormuz is going to open. Oil prices have responded accordingly. But Iran, which just suffered several days of Israeli and U.S. strikes, wants to make sure that it doesn't look like it caved under American pressure. And so I think there's a lot of communication to internal audiences, to its very divided regime, to say, no, we're standing strong. We haven't given in. We're still deciding what to do about this deal. Where the truth lies is not really clear at this point. But one thing I'll point out is Iran has repeatedly signed pledges, promises that it's not going to have a nuclear weapon. It's a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty going back to the 1970s, the international treaty that says we will not pursue a nuclear weapon. It claims that it has a fatwa, a religious ruling from its previous supreme leader saying we will not pursue nuclear weapons. It told the Obama administration in 2015 as part of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, we will not pursue a nuclear weapon. We know it has violated all of those pledges. If all we got in this deal is yet another written promise that it's not going to do the thing it's been doing for the last 25 years,
will this all have been for
much of a deal at all.
Will this all have been for naught then? And if at the end of the day they're not willing to give up their nuclear capabilities or ambitions, what will all of this have been for? And how will history view this moment?
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost, we have to say the Iran that this deal is going to be struck with today is not the Iran that existed on February 28th, and it's not the Iran that existed on October 7th of 2023. Iran is a much weaker country than it was. It doesn't have the proxies on 7 different fronts in 7 different countries in the Middle East ready to go to war with Israel and the United States, teeming with hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles. It does not have the thousands of missiles that it used to have. Its nuclear program does not exist in the way that it did before June of 2025. Iran has been significantly weakened. It is not the threat that it was, and that is a huge accomplishment. The question is, will it be able to rebuild that threat, or will that threat remain contained by a deal that's verifiable and enforceable? And we don't know that yet. But if the deal is merely a pledge not to pursue nuclear weapons, then we'll be safe for some point in time. But Iran will rebuild, and that will be a problem.
Blaise, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is that President Trump reportedly caught Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu by surprise with this announcement. And Netanyahu's come forward and said, Israel is not part of this deal. But Iran has said time and time again it's not going to sign to anything that doesn't cover Israel's war with Hezbollah. So how is that all going to shake out? And could Netanyahu end up tanking this?
Yeah, I think that is another big question mark with this deal. Iranian media are saying that Lebanon is part of the agreement, which would mean that it binds Israel as well to stop its conflict with Hezbollah, maybe retreat from the positions it's holding inside of Lebanon. I think that would be seen by Israel as forsaking its security in some way, meaning that it doesn't finish the fight against this terrorist group. And I think that would certainly be seen inside Iran as a major strategic victory that says Iran is allowed to control, to decide what happens in Lebanon. I think that issue and the issue of the Strait of Hormuz, will Iran be given control over the strait? Will it have the ability to toll ships that pass through it? Are going to be really big also issues in this deal. Is Iran going to have some continued power and influence over the region that is recognized in this deal or not?
And that's the other thing we've been talking about just all morning is the Strait of Hormuz, with the president saying it's going to open up immediately if they sign something. But you have Iran, who's reportedly laid all these mines across the corridor. So how quickly is immediate in real time? Blaise Misztal, thank you so much, as always, for your time, sir. Greatly appreciate you.
Thank you, Marky.
See you next week. Okay, this is